What if I told you a tiny typo, a simple mistake in a few letters, almost triggered a nuclear war? It sounds crazy, but it's a true story. One wrong letter in a critical computer command nearly sent the world spiraling into chaos. This wasn't some far-fetched sci-fi plot. It happened during the Cold War, when the US and the Soviet Union were on the edge of disaster more times than most people realize. Today, I'm going to share the story of the typo that nearly destroyed the world. It's a wild reminder that even small errors can have huge consequences. 10. The Cold War's constant fear. In the 1980s, the Cold War was one of the most tense periods in modern history. The United States and the Soviet Union, the two superpowers, had spent decades building enormous stockpiles of nuclear weapons. Both sides were ready to launch a devastating attack if they believed the other was about to strike first. This created a dangerous situation where trust was almost non-existent. Each nation watched the other very closely, knowing that any misunderstanding or mistake could lead to a catastrophic war. Because nuclear weapons can cause destruction on an unimaginable scale, the fear was very real. People around the world lived with the anxiety that a mistake might lead to a global nuclear conflict. To prevent this, governments invested heavily in technology that could warn them of an incoming missile attack as quickly as possible. In this high-stakes environment, timing was everything. There were only minutes to act once an attack was detected. 9. The early warning system's importance to protect themselves from a surprise nuclear attack. The US developed an early warning system designed to spot incoming missiles before they could reach American soil. This system combined radar stations, satellites, and specialized computers that scan the skies 24/7. The main goal was to detect any threat as soon as possible, giving the military enough time to respond and defend the country. However, the technology was still in its early stages. The computers used were very basic compared to today's standards and required precise programming to work correctly. Because of this, the system was vulnerable to errors and glitches. A false alarm could cause panic and could potentially trigger a dangerous response. During the Cold War, a false warning was more than just a technical problem. It could lead to disaster. That made the accuracy and reliability of this early warning system absolutely critical. 8. The computer program behind the system. At the heart of this warning system was a computer program designed to analyze data from radar stations. This program checked for signs that missiles were heading toward the US. It was programmed to look for specific patterns indicating an attack. If it detected multiple incoming missiles, it would alert military leaders immediately. The system's accuracy was critical because a false alarm could lead to panic, while missing a real attack could mean disaster. Because of this, every line of code mattered. 7. The typo that almost triggered disaster. Now here's where the typo story begins. In 1983, the Soviet early warning system detected what looked like a missile launch from the US. The warning was serious enough to alert Soviet leadership, but it turned out to be a false alarm caused by a rare software bug. In this case, the root cause was traced back to a single typo in the computer code of the warning system. The typo was a wrong character in a command that interpreted radar signals incorrectly. This tiny mistake made the system think missiles were incoming when there were none. 6. Threats. For example, reflections from clouds or bright sunlight were seen as missile launches. Since the program was designed to trigger an alert immediately when it detected signs of an attack, it sent a false warning. This false alarm made Soviet commanders think they were under attack and forced them to consider launching a nuclear response within minutes. 5. The human factor saves the day. This is where the story gets even more intense. The Soviet officer on duty that night was Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov. When the warning came through, Petrov was supposed to report the launch and let the chain of command start a possible nuclear retaliation. But Petrov was suspicious. However, he knew the system was new and not perfect. He questioned the alarm and chose not to report it as a real attack. Instead, he decided it was a false alarm. This choice was risky. Ignoring a real warning could have been disastrous, but his gut feeling and calm judgment prevented a nuclear response. 4. Why Petrov's decision was crucial. Petrov's decision to ignore the false alarm is credited with preventing a nuclear war. If he had reported the warning as genuine, the Soviet leadership might have launched missiles back at the US. Within minutes, the world could have plunged into a nuclear conflict. His calm judgment under pressure helped buy time for further checks and allowed other systems to confirm that no attack was actually happening. The typo in the software nearly caused disaster, but the human element stopped it. This story highlights how technology and humans must work together. One mistake in code could lead to catastrophe if not for smart, level-headed decisions. 3. How close the world came to disaster. It's hard to grasp just how close the world came to disaster because everything happens so fast. Nuclear weapons travel incredibly quickly, and decisions had to be made in minutes or even seconds. The Cold War was filled with tense moments like this, but few were as close as this false alarm. Later investigations showed that the early warning system had a serious flaw in how it processed data, all because of that tiny typo in the software. Without Petrov's decision, the mistake could have set off a chain reaction no one wanted. 2. The aftermath and lessons. Learned after the incident, both the US and the Soviet Union improved their warning systems. They worked to make sure software errors like that typo would never cause false alarms again. The event also highlighted the importance of human judgment in systems that can decide life or death. Technology is powerful but not perfect, and people still need to stay alert and make decisions, especially in situations with huge consequences. Petrov became a quiet hero, praised by experts but little known to the public for many years. 1. Why this story matters today. You might wonder why a story from the 1980s is still important now. The truth is, we live in a world full of complex technology, and mistakes still happen. Software bugs, typos, and errors are everywhere, and some have serious consequences. This story reminds us to be careful with the tools we rely on, especially when lives are on the line. It also shows the value of human judgment. No computer is perfect, and sometimes the right decision depends on a calm, thoughtful person. Finally, it's a powerful lesson about how even the smallest mistakes can ripple out into massive problems if not caught in time. So there you have it, the story of a tiny typo that almost changed the course of history. It's amazing to think how close we came to disaster because of just one wrong letter in a line of code. But it's also a hopeful story about the power of careful thinking and courage under pressure. If this story surprised you or made you think about how fragile peace can be, please like this video and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, where small moments have huge effects. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.